Hello and welcome to our next guide. Today we're going to be working on Sigvald, the Magnificent from Games Workshop. We'll be doing a lot of non-metallic gold. I am hoping and I'm looking to make it as interesting as I can. It's going to be a very fun paint job. We're going to be painting a very nice satin cloth. Some interesting non-metallics with lots of colors. Chrome non-metallic on the shield, lots of fun stuff. So let's get started, shall we? I have started the paint job by spraying full red from Vallejo model color onto the model. You can base coat it if you want. I airbrushed it to make it faster for myself. It's just a base coat. From now on, we're going to be working with a brush. So the next color I'm going to pick up is red oxide from Chimera, which I have lost. I've lost it. Alright, so Chimera Red Oxide. I have it on my palette. And we're gonna sketch our first highlight onto our non-metallic here. So I will be picking out all of the areas where I want these strong lights to be. Of course, this is our basic starting color. We have a lot more road to go through, but we'll be starting from here. So red oxide, I'm gonna start creating an idea of a movement of the light in the model by creating some highlights that aren't just blobs of paint, but they have a shape, and the shape follows the volume. In parts like the chest here, which is very flat, we can go a bit more thorough with our red oxide and paint it in a bit more heavily. As always, we're making sure that the highlights cover fully, so we're going to redo them if necessary. Sorry, one of my lamps died. I had to replace it. That's so sad. Anyway, let's go back to sketching. I haven't done anything since I paused the video. Okay. So we are ignoring for now the reflected lights that I so often paint because I intend of doing them in a completely different color than these normal goldish highlights. So we're gonna be entirely working on the normal light, which is the sunlight hitting the model, and then we're gonna be working on painting the ground light hitting the model. That's gonna be the big difference across our painting. So for now, we just do this. I'm gonna leave this sword unpainted for a minute. I don't really need to do all of the small details. We're working on the armor. So let's keep sketching. What I'm gonna be using next up is Scrofulous Brown from Vallejo Game Color. And we're going to look into creating a very saturated orange yellow. So we're not going to be using Scrofulous Brown in its purity. We're going to be adding some of this red oxide to it. We're going to thin it a little bit, and we're going to start creating our true light. So inside of the areas of the highlights that we painted, we're going to be blocking in our strong orange yellow. We don't need to go overboard with this highlight. We can keep them small and then eventually make them bigger if needed. always make sure that you have full coverage, especially when working with yellows, because it's very common to feel like you got coverage and then you didn't really. And then when it fully dries, it looks very grayish as a color. Always make sure you get full coverage, because what we're looking here is for vibrance, not only an highlight and a color, but a vibrance. We need to make this armor look like it's glowing with light, right? And the only way for us to be able to achieve that is by making sure that we get the coverage out of our light properly. So always spend a couple more minutes reinforcing coverage whenever you feel like you're missing it, because it is very important in the long run. Okay, now that we have these colors sorted out, we can start lighting it up a little bit. I'm gonna be using Sunny Skin Tone from Vallejo or AK, either works, doesn't matter too much. I'm gonna be adding this Sunny Skin Tone to our previous highlight color. And I'm gonna do exactly the same thing I did so far. I'm gonna be painting this highlight inside of the previous highlight. I haven't blended yet. Of the chest armor so that it creates the volume and makes the side of the armor look darker compared to the center. We're moving up slowly in value. We are changing the colors quite a lot, but our value change is not much. We're not super highlighting. I haven't added any pure white yet. So it's a very slow process, but we are doing this slowly so that we can achieve a clean paint job, a smooth paint job. This model deserves it and needs it. It's Sigvald the Magnificent. It needs to be kind of magnificent, you know what I mean? We can't really get away too much with textures on this thing. We have to make sure that we get the right blends, the right colors. We can texture, yes, to give to create an interesting look into the metallics and things, but we're gonna have to do it softly. out of focus. The armor looks pretty good. What we need to do is just keep pushing the light to get the right contrast, because we have the right colors. We need the right contrast now to make it look fully, truly metallic and gold. But the colors we have here, they are the right colors for a gold non-metallic. At least this specific gold non-metallic. You can do gold in millions of different ways. But we can have a nice warm non-metallic here, which looks very good on this character, especially when we add the cold highlights on the bottom. But what we need to do is now make it really bright. So I'm going to be using Ice Yellow from AK. And we're going to have some fun just sketching the strongest highlights here and there. And then eventually blending it a little bit. So I'm going to be picking pure Ice Yellow. I'm not going to be mixing it into anything, just pure Ice Yellow. I'm going to sketch in the strongest light, and then I will bridge between them. Between the strongest light and the previous light. So with pure Ice Yellow, we can really work our light now. We want to keep this highlight small. This is a mistake that most people do when they do non-metallic, is that they do the strongest light a bit too big, and then everything loses meaning. Keep this highlight very small. Needs to be pretty much dots of paint. Okay, now that we have the strong light in the center mass of the model, we can add it to our yellow to have the strongest highlight of the bottom half of the model. So we're not going to be using the same strong light. We're going to be using two different lights, one darker than the other, to create a sense of gradient from the bottom of the model towards the top. So the top will look brighter than the bottom thanks to the strongest highlight. Being different from each other. Same thing though, we're going to try to keep it as small as possible. Just little dots. Okay. Okay. All we gotta do now is work a lot on blending everything. So just give me a minute and we'll get started. Okay, so this will be the part where I start blending all of the colors using in-between mixes. But as you know, I like to show things as much as I can on my pattern to keep things fresh. And this time we're going to be doing something a bit different. I am picking up a very strong yellow ink, cadmium yellow. You don't want to lick the brush when you use this one. Cadmium is kind of toxic. But yeah, it's a very strong yellow ink. Also, the tip is strong. Strong. Okay, we did it. And we're going to be doing what people usually use an airbrush for. We're going to be using the brush instead, because we're expert painter here. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be getting some of this cadmium. I'm going to slap it on the palette. I'm going to add some of the scrofulous brown to it to make a more warm yellow. I'm going to thin this mix quite a bit. And I'm going to glaze this mix all over the armor in the areas where I want the mid-tone to change. Which means we're not going to be glazing this color all over the armor. We're just going to be glazing it in the areas of light. Doing this will give us sort of a blend because it's going to soften up the contrast. And it's also going to give us a more yellow gold color on top of the orangish tones that we used, because so far the armor was looking like a bronze. I'm sure some of you might have thought it while looking at the video, were like, dude, this is a bronze, that's not a gold. But I wanted to bamboozle you. That's why. I wanted to show you how you can turn bronze into gold without having to be an alchemist. And this is how. You can just glaze a very vibrant yellow over your oranges and your browns to create that gold warmth that's needed to make the armor look nicely gold. We're just glazing here, not doing anything super fancy, just simple glazing. It's important that you don't overdo this glaze. I licked the brush, I'm dead. That you don't overdo this glaze because you don't want the armor to turn into a ugly yellow canary color. You just want this canary yellow that we're using as a glaze to tint the color underneath it. Okay, so we're not looking to base coat this ink, we're looking to tint with this ink. So it's gonna have a much bigger effect over the lights than it's gonna have over the shadows, and that's good because it's gonna give us interesting changes of hue across all of the paint job, not just the light. As we glaze this yellow over the shadows, over the mid-tones, over the highlights, it's gonna tint all of them. While if we don't glaze it, we're going to be maintaining our brownish, our red-brown color, which is going to be very useful because it gives a sense of gradient, a sense of changing. Once you have achieved hue on a model, the next step is volume, and once you have achieved value on a model, the next step is volume, and the next step is color. So once you have value and volume sorted out, which means you have interpreted the shapes accordingly and you have enough contrast to portray whatever detail you're trying to paint, it's important to work around the colors. So that's what we're going to be doing now. We're going to be making our lights yellower, and we're going to push the highlights again after doing this glaze, because of course we have turned our ice yellow into more of a canary yellow, which we're going to have to return into a bright yellow. But for now, we're just glazing this color on, getting ourselves exactly what we wanted, which is a gold warm armor. Okay, now we can wet blend. We can use our yellow, we can place it over the area of light, and then we can quickly pick up our ice yellow, paint it inside, and blend the two colors together. Right here, right now. Like so, see? And we can do the very same thing on the other side of the armor. Just place the yellow glaze and then slap some of a little bit thicker ice yellow on top and get the two to blend onto the armor, giving us that nice highlight. Okay? And now it's just a matter of cleaning up everything. We're gonna be glazing now a bit more after adding this yellow to clean up any gradient that we would like to fix. Creating in between mixes, of course. So like whenever we feel there is a discord between the colors, we just mix them together and place the in-between mix on the separation between the two to create a gradient and a blend. Yeah. Okay, I think this concludes part one of our non-metallic. We need to do part two now, which is very interesting, I think. Let me get one color ready, and then we can go. I'm gonna be picking up Samurai Green from the Cartacci set, one of the new sets that came out from Chimera. I'm gonna be using this color, I'm gonna be adding another color to it, and we're gonna be sketching the reflection of the ground off of the armor. So as you have surely noticed, I have pushed the lights a lot in the chest and arms, but not as much in the legs. And you might be thinking, wow, there's not enough color there, like it's not very interesting. I agree with you, that's what we're going to be making. We're going to be making it interesting. So we have our base coat of... wait, let me give you the name of the color. Ocean Blue from AK. So Samurai Green from Chimera and Ocean Blue from AK. We have our strong, warm lights. Now we're going to be making cold lights coming from the ground. I want the rocks to be kind of sort of a teal gray, so we can use that notion to create ourselves a dark blue with a bit of teal added to it, which is the Samurai Green. And we can thin this quite a bit. And we can go and place this color in the areas of shadow to create an highlight, which would be the ground reflecting off of the armor. If you're painting this model and you don't want to do this light, for whatever reason, you can just use one of the first few highlights that we did on the armor. You can use that highlight to do the the secondary lights without having to modify the hue into this green color. Yeah, we're gonna be picking up the pure ocean blue and use it as a glaze to blend in our bluish, light blue highlight into the armor. So we're just gonna be placing this color as a glue, as a glaze, stippled in gently on the separation between the cool red base coat and the light blue we built. You can see that by doing this little trick of light and color, we are creating an infinite amount more of contrast, because we are having a cold and warm contrast, the warmth of the yellows and ochres and reds against the blues and light blues and green. We're having a color theory contrast, because there is red in our armor and there is green in our highlights, or shadow highlights. So green and red are against each other. And we also have more contrast because we don't just have the areas of shadow as boring dark shadows, but instead we go from shadow into light again. So we have effectively more light on the model, even though we haven't pushed the highlights. Okay, I'm just gonna keep working like this until I'm satisfied. So I will see you in a moment. I'm gonna be working on the blending, just blending away like I've shown you already, and we'll catch up. Okay, we are back. I have glazed like a maniac. I have added just blending, lots and lots and lots of blending to create definition across the model. I simply mixed the in-between colors between every part of the model where I felt like the colors weren't working, and I just placed the glaze in between them. That's what I did. I did a lot of that. You've already seen me blend. One thing I did though, which I haven't shown, is I have highlighted the reflection on. So instead of keeping it just blue, I have added a bit of sunny skin tone to the samurai green, and I've just simply done edge lights, and yeah, just the edge lights basically of the areas that are being hit by the OSL light. That's all for now. I think we can call this video done, and the next time we're going to be working on the face and the shield, I think, and then maybe the blade too if it's quick enough, and then we can do the cape last, and then we can do the base, and we're done. That's all. I'll see you all in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being part of the Patreon. You guys are amazing. Take care of yourselves.